rivers should be clean as well, and my honourable friend the Environment Minister will be visiting the Wye area shortly with or without his swimming trunks, and I know that we're urging the Welsh Government to take this matter as seriously as this Government is.
Please get him in there. Sir Geoffrey Donalds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister will know that many families across the United Kingdom are struggling with the increased cost of living and rising energy costs. But in Northern Ireland, that is compounded by the protocol. 27% is the increase in the cost of bringing goods from Great Britain to Northern Ireland when we can get access to those goods. It is costing business £2.5 million every day, almost £1 billion a year, the cost of the protocol. The Prime Minister talks about uniting this nation and levelling up. He could do that by removing the Irish Sea border and restoring Northern Ireland's place fully within the UK internal market.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I must say that I support passionately the indignation of the right honourable gentleman opposite. And yes, yes, Mr. Speaker, I never thought when we negotiated that this would be 200 businesses have stopped supplying Northern Ireland. Foods are being blocked, Mr. Speaker. Christmas cards are being surcharged. And frankly, Mr. Speaker, the EU is implementing this in an insane and pettifogging way. And we need to sort it out, and I completely support what he's saying.
Philip Dunn.
Has my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, seen the report published earlier this month by the EAC, making recommendations about what else should be done in addition to the welcome measures in the Environment Act to clean up our rivers, including the River Wye, but all our rivers? One of the recommendations was that DEFRA should give guidance to Ofwat to require water companies to invest much more in water treatment in the next round of capital spending approvals. Will he encourage his Secretary of State to give this guidance in the strategic policy statement to Ofwat expected shortly?
Prime Minister.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Speaker, my right honourable friend is completely right. I welcome the report by his committee. This government is going further and faster than any other government hitherto to protect and improve the health of our rivers and seas.
Lord Russell-Moyle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Happy unbirthday to him. Happy unbirthday to him, because just like the Mad Hatter, he didn't need the excuse of a birthday to have a party, but it did help, didn't it? So when he had groups of people singing to him when illegal gatherings indoor were illegal and communal singing was banned, my constituents think that he has lied. My constituents think that he lied to this House, and my constituents think he lied to them when he was partying and telling them all...
Order. In passing what your constituents say, but you can't continue to labour that one point. Lord Russell-Moyle.
So, I would prefer to be led by a lawyer than a liar. Will he now resign?
The honourable member will be withdrawing that last comment.
I withdraw it. That's what my constituents think, not mine.
Right, too. Less of that, Prime Minister.
Well, I think that the honourable gentleman, I'm afraid, in everything he said just now, plainly doesn't know what he is talking about. He plainly doesn't know what he's talking about. What I can tell him, and what I can tell his constituents, is that irrespective of what they want to focus on, and I understand why they do, Mr. Speaker, this government is going to get on with the job and deliver for the people of this country.
Cheryl Murray.
Mr. Speaker, the great people of Cornwall voted in our Prime Minister on a promise to get Brexit done. He was successful. Faced with the global pandemic, our Prime Minister set out to build a world-beating vaccination programme to save lives. Mr. Speaker, he was successful. He's now lifted COVID restrictions against huge pressure not to do so, and he's got the economy back on track. Can I ask my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, will he continue to deliver on the priorities of my constituents and the millions across this country who voted for him in 2019?
Mr. Speaker, I really can't improve on the the brilliant question. The people of South East Cornwall are lucky to have my honourable friend as such a representative, and she's right in what she says.
Jonathan Edwards.
Diolch, Mr Speaker. Tomorrow is the second anniversary since my constituent Michael Leary was murdered and his body desecrated in an attempt to cover up the crime. Will he meet with campaigners and myself to discuss the need for a new offence or amended sentencing guidelines to reflect the extra suffering faced by the families of murdered victims whose bodies were concealed or desecrated?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank him very much for drawing this appalling case to the attention of the House, and I can certainly assure him that he will be getting the meeting he needs at the earliest opportunity.
Sir Mike Penning.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. On the 24th of November, Mr Speaker, I asked the Prime Minister if he would meet with me and my constituents about the future or lack of future of a new hospital in Hemel Hempstead. I thought when I put in the question today that I would have to ask the same question, but last night I was offered the meeting. So on another note, Prime Minister, many children in this country are suffering from a special form of seizure, which medical cannabis prescribed by a consultant actually helps them live. Only 2 children in this country get that free on the NHS. The rest of those children have to beg, borrow and scrape with their families to try and get that prescription issued by a consultant paid for. Can the Prime Minister please use the political will? I know the Secretary of State has the political will, but please push this forward so these children live.
Prime Minister.
I thank my honourable friend. I'm delighted he has the meeting that he wanted. We've already changed the law to allow doctors to prescribe cannabis products where clinically appropriate. But, Mr Speaker, we're very keen to support it, provided the MHRA is happy as well.
Richard Norrally.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Threats and intimidation, bribery and blackmail, racism and Islamophobia. That's the character of his government. Every day, the Prime Minister lurches from scandal to scandal, and meanwhile, his government has written off £4.3 billion to fraudsters. Instead of writing off loans to fraudsters, why won't the Prime Minister write his resignation to the Queen?
Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, because let me just. She talks about racism and Islamophobia. You look at this government, Mr Speaker. Look at the modern Conservative Party. We are the party of hope and opportunity for people across this country, irrespective of race or religion, and we don't care what religion you affirm. All we care about is whether you're interested in ideas of aspiration and opportunity. That's what we're about.
The recruitment of 20,000 police officers is a fantastic commitment to law and order by this government. Bedfordshire, in common with many other police forces, has lost out on about 95 officers as a result of the imposition of damping in 2004. So we don't have to rely on one-off special grants to stay solvent. Will the Prime Minister recommit to the reformation of the police funding formula in this Parliament?
Prime Minister.
My right honourable friend, the Policing Minister, has assured me we're going to be introducing a new funding formula before the end of the Parliament, but I'm pleased that Bedfordshire Police have already recruited 100 additional officers as part of our uplift programme. That's part of the 11,000 more that this government has put on the streets.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Twice in recent months I've asked the PM about his and his Transport Secretary commitment to deliver the PM's pledge to invest in UK-built ZEBs zero-emission buses. I did not receive a clear answer. Worrying reports in the media of Treasury cuts to bus buying plans highlight a conflict between the PM and his Chancellor. Prime Minister, is the current Chancellor denying you, the current Prime Minister, the right to fulfil your pledge to buy 4,000 zero-emission buses?
Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, there's never in the history of this country been such a bonanza for buses. I am personally a bus fanatic. We're putting £5 billion into buses and cycling during this Parliament, and £355 million into new funding for zero-emission buses. And yes, of course, we want to see the benefits of that funding spread right across the whole of the United Kingdom.
Louis French.
Mr Speaker, securing extra health services at Queen Mary's Hospital Sidcup is a key priority for local residents, as it is for me as the first homegrown MP for Old Bexley and Sidcup. Will the Prime Minister support me in delivering this extra investment for our local hospital and join me in thanking all of the staff at Queen Mary's for their incredible efforts? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Yes, and I can't say what a joy it is to welcome my honourable friend to his place. Joy seems a bit confined on the benches opposite, Mr Speaker. I thank him for his work and support for everybody at Queen Mary's Hospital, which he and I have campaigned for many years. Last year, Queen Mary's received £800,000 of funding, and I hope that it will benefit further from the £1 million funding awarded to the Oxley's NHS Foundation Trust to improve technology services across its estates.
Richard Bergen.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. A nurse who organised a small socially distanced demonstration against this government's pay cuts was fined £10,000. People out there are sick to the back teeth of it being one rule for the Tories and another for everyone else. The Prime Minister, for once, needs to do a decent thing. For God's sake, resign.
Mr Speaker, I don't think there was a question there. There was an invitation for me to do what, of course, the Labour Party wants me to do, but I'm not going to do it, Mr Speaker. We are going to carry on with our agenda of uniting and levelling up across the country. And they fundamentally know that they have no answer to that. We have a plan and a vision for this country. They have absolutely nothing to say. And that is the difference between our side and their side.
Mr Speaker, alongside the threat of a Russian invasion of Ukraine, there are real fears of China invading Taiwan. On Sunday, Beijing staged the largest incursion into Taiwan's airspace since October. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that military aggression and threat of occupation are never acceptable anywhere in the world? And will he confirm that under this Conservative government, the UK will always be at the forefront of standing up forcefully for freedom and democracy, security and stability?
Yes, I thank my honourable friend. I want to tell him that the Chinese military flights that have taken place near Taiwan in recent days and months are not conducive to peace and stability in the region. And what we need is a peaceful and constructive dialogue by people on both sides of the Taiwan Strait. And I know that is what my right honourable friend, the Foreign Secretary, and all colleagues are working for.
That ends Prime Minister's questions. For those who are not staying for the UQ, please leave quietly. Right, we now come to the urgent question, which has been granted to... I'll just let a few more go, won't be a second. Kevin Hollinray.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and for granting this urgent question. I'd like to ask the Secretary of State for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy if he will make a statement on the government's plans to bring forward an economic crime bill.
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I thank my honourable friend for the question, but as I'm sure he'll appreciate, I'm not going to speculate about the content of any future Queen's speech. That's the correct moment for the government to be setting out its legislative agenda for the next parliamentary session. However, I can confirm that the government remains committed to tackling economic crime, which is why my colleagues in the Home Office and the Treasury take the lead on this. In the recent years, we've taken a number of actions, including creating a new National Economic Crime Centre to coordinate the law enforcement response to economic crime, and establishing the Office for Professional Body AML Supervision to improve oversight of anti-money laundering compliance in the legal and accountancy sectors. We delivered the Criminal Finances Act 2017, which introduced new powers, including unexplained wealth orders and account freezing orders. We're determined to go further to crack down on dirty money, to protect our security and our prosperity. With the publication of the fraud strategy and second economic crime plan this year, we will further level up the response to crack down on these types of crimes. My department is playing its part. Bayes announced plans to reform Companies House in September 2020, and in 2021 we consulted on more detailed aspects of the reforms, and we will respond soon. Investment in new capabilities at Companies House is already underway, with £20 million being invested this financial year and a further £63 million announced at the spending review. The draft Registration of Overseas Entities Bill has undergone pre-legislative scrutiny. We're amending the bill in line with the committee's recommendations and in line with comments the Prime Minister made to this House just yesterday. We will introduce the bill and the broader reforms to Companies House when parliamentary time allows.
I'm grateful to the Minister for his response. As he knows, economic crime costs the people of this country £100 billion per annum, according to the National Crime Agency. The Government has repeatedly committed to legislate to give our agencies the tools they need to tackle this problem. It was there very concerning to hear from my noble friend Lord Agnew, who recently resigned from his role as Minister responsible for countering fraud, that a decision has been made to drop the economic crime bill from the legislation due in the next parliamentary session. This is not a notional white-collar offence. It affects real people in very tangible ways. Terrorists and drug dealers depend on it to launder and legitimise their money through UK banks, companies and properties. Up to 50% of monies flowing through Russian laundromats, often used for tax avoidance, stolen public funds and to launder monies derived from organised crime, flowed through UK shell companies.